Blessed be, guys and ghouls. I've got another DIY for you guys today. We are going to be making over a pair of shoes. This is something I've been wanting to try out for a while, so bear with me. I've never done this before, but I've been seeing a lot of really cool shoes from, say, like Iron Fist specifically. I'll post a picture of an example in the corner, and I decided to take a pair of heels that I found in the thrift store and see if I can replicate it into something similar. I'm actually really excited to be making over these heels specifically because they've got faux reptile skin, faux snake skin heels, which, if you know me, snake skin is something that I do not support. I love reptiles. I grew up with reptiles in the house, and even though it's obviously faux snake skin, even buying faux snake skin, you're creating a demand for the real thing. So normally I don't buy it. Luckily, because I bought these in the thrift store, that helps negate the demand. And by making it over, I'm kind of kicking that whole faux snake skin look to the curb. So let's see what we can do here. First things first, as always, I'm going to prepare our space. I'm working on a glass tabletop, which is relatively easy to clean acrylic paint off of. However, an ounce of prevention will save me some time and cleanup later down the line. I've also got water to rinse out my brushes. I've got my brushes right here. And then next I'm going to figure out how I am going to paint these guys. I think the most prudent thing to do is to start off by giving this a nice base coat. So I'm gonna take my black acrylic paint and paint this entire thing with a nice even coat. All right, one down, one to go. You might be wondering why I'm painting shoes that are already black. That's because these have a shiny sort of patent finish, and by giving this a primer coat of black acrylic paint, any further painting I do will have something to stick to. Now, fortunately, this is a warm California day, so this paint should dry pretty darn fast. Now we're gonna let these dry and then we'll come back. All right, everyone, so now that these shoes have had time to dry, I think I'm gonna give them another coat, actually, because there's quite a few bits where the shiny faux patent vinyl is showing through. And I really want to make sure that if I'm going to go through all of the time and effort to paint a design on this, I want to make sure that it's not going to flake off later on, which is why it's really important to give it a good foundation to stick to. It's not like, I mean, I guess theoretically you could sand shoes. I don't know how it would turn out. So I'm just gonna err on the side of caution and give these one more quick coat, nice and thin, so it'll dry quickly. So fun fact, between takes, I snapped off the clip on my body mic and it fell into our air conditioning unit. which is currently turned off because it's very loud. However, that means my body mic is doing some sort of weird twisty thing with my nursing bra in order to stay attached to me. And I'm hoping that when our air conditioning unit kicks on, the clip isn't positioned in a way where it's going to damage it. Guess only time will tell. So that was fun. Alrighty, so while that second coat is drying, we're going to go ahead and get ourselves ready to paint our design. I have decided that since these are platformy, ridiculous, vampy heels, we're going vampire themed, which means we've got our black already. We've got some white, some true primary red, another container to mix paint in. It's got a little bit of paint in here already, but that's fine. I think the color that's in here will work fine with what I'm gonna do. One thing I like about acrylic paint is it typically dries more or less the same shade it is when it's wet. I'm kind of making up this design as I go. Although I've seen Iron Fist do similar heels, I have not seen any pictures of them recently. So we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. Obviously it's vampy heel, so it's got to have blood. It's got to have fangs. No glitter.
No glitter.
Right, so I've got a nice kind of oxblood color. I'll lighten it up with some more of that true primary red. Maybe just a scotch of white, which will make it a bit more dull, but I'm cool with that. But I really need this to lighten up. And it's very hard to lighten up dark colors. It's a lot easier to make a light color darker than a dark color lighter. This snotty stuff is not what I'm about. Oh, you know what? I've got some scrap paper here. I'm gonna fish out this snotty paint so that I'll be working with a lot more smooth a consistency, because it's like, look at that. That's terrible. So I'm just gonna use my toothbrush, my paintbrush, to kind of fish out these stringy, chunky bits, because we don't want that to accidentally end up on our shoe. That would be bad. And I'm also going to add a touch of yellow just to really brighten it up. All right, as my grandmother would say, now we're cooking with oil. I'm going to paint the inside of the heel with this dark sort of dried blood color. I love it when shoes do this because it's sort of like a surprise little subtle moment. And since these ones have such an extreme heel, like, it'd be kind of a crime not to go for it. I'm not too worried about extending it to the sole. I am going to do this, but realistically, it'll probably wear off as I walk. But that's fine. The most important thing is that you just get that backside of the heel. And since we primed this with just a straight black, if you go over the edges accidentally, not a big deal. You could always just go over it later with that same black and touch it up. Since I used it right out of the bottle, you don't have to worry about mixing new shades, or this is definitely going to require more than one coat, but that is fine. All right, so I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to do the second one. Acrylic paint, if the coats are nice and thin, will dry very quickly, and then you can always add more coats later to make the color more opaque. But if you add coats that are too thick, not only will it take a lot longer to dry, but you might even end up with some texturing, which in this case we do not want. This guy, I'm gonna go ahead and get the edges of the sole as well, because I did it accidentally before, and I'm taking a page out of Bob Ross's book and looking at it as a happy accident. Alrighty. Now we wait. Alright, I'm going to use a brush with a nice crisp edge to go in with the black paint along the edges of the sole of the shoe and clean that up. Now it's starting to get dark, which means today we will probably only have enough time to finish this foundation coat. However, once we're done with this, that means when next we pick these bad boys up, we are going to be able to work on our design. All right, guys, it's getting dark and cold. Our final foundation layers are nice and smooth and opaque. So we are just gonna let these guys chill and pick them up another day. Catch you then. All right, guys and ghouls, we are back with our second day of working on these shoes. Today we're inside because I'm gonna be using the hot glue gun. So without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is lay down some newspaper in order to protect the surface we're working on. Next, we're going to take this dried blood color, and I'm going to be drawing a symmetrical smile type of shape on top of the toe of the shoe, extending it up towards the sides. I will repeat this on the other shoe as well, being extra careful to keep things as symmetrical as possible. If you make any mistakes at this stage, as you can see me doing here, that's totally fine. You can always erase it using the same black acrylic paint you used on your primer coat in order to cover a multitude of sins. Alright, now's a really fun part. We're going to take our shoe here and a random disposable clear plastic straw I had lying around. I am also taking my primary red acrylic paint. I'm just going to be using the paint straight out of the bottle. Next, you're going to be dipping your straw directly into your bottle of paint and putting your finger over the open end in order to keep the paint in the straw's reservoir. Now is the fun part. With the paint-filled end of your straw over the shoe, go ahead and put the clean end of the straw to your mouth and blow, which will splatter red paint all over your shoe. Make sure you're working in an environment that is relatively easy to clean up because this can get messy, but it is also super fun. You can also just let the straw release big fat drips over your shoe to create this kind of drippy effect you can see on the side. You can also blow on your straw for extra long to kind of smear and push the paint around. Feel free to experiment with different techniques to figure out which ones work for the effect that you are trying to achieve. Now, full transparency here, I was a little over eager to get to this part of my design, but word of caution, it actually would be a much better idea to do this splatter painting technique at the very end of your design. Once you're done with your splatter paint, go in with a damp paper towel and wipe out the inside of your shoe to clean up any errant paint that might have gotten in there. As you can see here, another splatter paint technique that I'm very fond of, which again is very messy, is you load up a stiff bristled brush with your red paint, and then you use your finger to kind of flick the paint towards your shoe. This is a really great way to get that kind of cast off bloody technique if you want your splatters to go in any particular direction, or just to kind of mix it up for that uber Dexter vibe. Blessed be, guys and ghouls. Another day working on this project. We're actually getting ready to move soon, so I'm gonna do my darndest to finish this project today. Krista's got the kids out and about, so without further ado, let's get back to it. All right, so for this portion of our shoe overhaul, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and load up my glue gun with one of my black glue sticks, and I'm going to flush out any of the clear hot glue that may still be sitting inside of my hot glue gun's reservoir, and I am going to just push it out of the glue gun until the glue runs black. I'm gonna let that chill for a minute and let the glue gun get nice and hot. While I'm at it, I noticed that the smile design I had drawn with the dried blood color dried a lot darker than I had originally wanted it to. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with that primary red and outline the smile to make it really pop. Next, I'm going to go in with some white acrylic paint and draw on some sharp, pointy fangs all along the smile of my shoes. Again, if you do this part before the splatter paint, you will make your life so much easier. Having to paint in these fangs around the red blood splatters was really infuriating, and I actually had to go in later on with my red paint to touch up the places that I couldn't work around with the white paint. Additionally, be sure to keep your black paint handy in case you need to touch up any areas that you may have overshot. And once again, try to keep your teeth symmetrical to the other shoe. Blessed be, guys and ghouls. I know it's been way too long, but I have a good excuse. We moved. We are officially in our new space. Not that you can probably tell, but I do have a new filming set up entirely. So we're gonna see how this goes. Bear with me if we have a few technical issues. I'm trying something new. But anyhow, back to what we were doing before. We are so stinking close to being done with these bad boys. Now, I was having some issues with my phone the last few times I had filmed this. Let me do a quick recap in case we have some missing footage. So as you can see on the shoe, what I did was I put some more details on the teeth. The stark white teeth weren't quite doing it for me. And now is for the next part, which is gonna take this already over the top shoe and make it even more extra. What we're going to do, very similar to the technique used in my DIY Book of Shadows video, is we're gonna drip some hot glue along the side. Now, I know I said these shoes weren't gonna sparkle, but as soon as I saw this nice chunky red glitter, I could not resist. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drip the hot glue along the sides. However, I am then going to completely dust it in red glitter. Now, as we all know, glitter is craft herpes. So I commandeered a big plastic tub from my son's room, which we are going to use to hopefully contain some of this glitter. I've already got it all over me, so my hopes aren't high, but we're gonna try to do what we can. Gonna need to shift things around just a little bit because I have a teeny tiny table over here on the side that I'm working off of. This setup is definitely a work in progress. However, I miss you guys. I miss filming. So I figured just do it. We're just gonna do it. We're just gonna make do because that's what we do here. Coffee time. All right, I'm back. If you have not seen my DIY BOS video, which, why haven't you? You should watch it. Anywho, so I'm going to go along the edge of the shoe and gloop, like so. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and move along, letting gravity really help me here and get some nice fat goopy drips. Now this glue stick's being a diva. There we go. Now with glue sticks, you may notice with hot glue, you get like these weird strings. They're very easy to trim away. But one of the techniques, if you're not noticing, that I use to kind of mitigate that is when I squirt along and it kind of trails off, I just move in circles to kind of incorporate the stringy bits in with the already molten glue. And then I'm gonna do a section of a couple inches, and then I'll come back and load some spots up just so it gets nice and droopy, maybe even kind of guide it down a little bit for spots that I want to drip down more. And then once I'm happy with a 2-inch section, I am going to hold it over my craft herpes containment bucket and sprinkle on the glitter. I'm doing this as I go because I want to make sure I get the glitter on there before the hot glue cools too much. And there you have it. There's a hot glue glitter splatter. I'm going to go ahead and continue to do this around the edge of the shoe, and then I'll check back in. This is starting to look so cool. Like, the glitter was the correct move, but this would look bitchin' even with like just the black. Like, imagine doing this like with a matte black shoe and then having the glossy gloops all the way around, or even like a candy pink shoe with the black loops. Like, how pastel goth is that? My God, there's so much glitter, so much glitter, so much glitter. It is everywhere. Oh, it's so extra. It's so extra. Alrighty, this bad boy is all glittered up. Like, it's just, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. So now I am going to do the next shoe, and we will see how we did. The things I do for you guys. I am utterly and completely covered in glitter. There is glitter on the floor, there's glitter on my phone, there's glitter on the computer. I've got to say, I really, really love it. I was worried that the sparkles would look a little incongruous, but that's not the case at all. They're just that little extra something that we needed. All right, so I am going to clean these puppies up and give them a good coat of trusty old Mod Podge, and then we'll see how they look in the daytime. Hey everyone, so here's a bonus step that I wasn't originally planning on adding, but after looking at the shoes for quite some time, I realized that it just wasn't quite there. So what I did was I took some of these plastic bats that I had laying around and realized this is just what these vampire shoes needed to really drive that theme home. So as you can see, I'm trying to fit these along the back of the shoe to give it that really great surprise wow factor. But the plastic on these bats are just a little inflexible, a little stiff, and they don't fit as nicely as I need them to do around the heel of the shoe. I am wrapping a tin can that I had laying around with some wax paper in order to make sure that nothing sticks, and I'm going to go in with my heat gun to warm up the plastic and try to form it around this small tin can, make it extra tight so that everything will fit a lot better. I quickly realized that even if I warm the plastic, it's still not fitting quite as snugly as I would like. So I'm going in with a very sharp X-Acto blade and carefully shaving away the excess plastic along the belly of the bat and going back in with the heat gun and warming it up until I can shape it around the tin can into a round configuration that will be better suited to the heel of the shoe. Be super, super careful with this because, at least in my experience, the plastic was very stiff and I found it a lot easier if I had warmed it with the heat gun so that the plastic became softer and easier to cut, but there is still a large opportunity to hurt yourself here. So caution, caution, caution. Once I have warmed the bat and wrapped it around the small tin can, I'm going to go ahead and go in with some masking tape and tape it into place so it can cool while it is rounded. Now here you're going to see me do a bit of an oopsie. I'm making things a little bit more complicated for myself. I am going in with some two-part epoxy and really screwing it up. Just use a hot glue gun. Trust me on this. Don't try to use epoxy. It did not work out well for me at all, and I ended up having to go in and rescue it with a combination of E6000 and hot glue. So skip the epoxy. Don't do what I'm doing. Now, with your glue of choice, be it E6000 or hot glue, I'm going to go ahead and glue these spikes into place along the inner heel of the shoe because why not? It looks so awesome. All the spikes. Add spikes to everything. It fixes everything. Now, once the bats have cooled nicely, I'm gonna go in again with some more of my adhesive of choice, be it hot glue or E6000, and I'm going to adhere the bats to the back of the shoes, making sure to secure them with more masking tape. Now, to make sure that everything is going to be drying in the proper configuration, I am actually propping these shoes up, toes towards the sky, with a couple more tin cans. And that's it. Once these bad boys have had plenty of time to dry, preferably overnight, go ahead and remove the tin cans, the masking tape, and we are all good to go. All right, guys, thank you so much for sticking with me through this wild roller coaster and my sabbatical while I changed locations. I look forward to posting for you guys again more often. And in the meantime, don't forget, stay spooky.